Okay, good morning. Certainly glad to have everybody here. We're got streaming video going on here this morning, so everybody has to be on their best behavior. You notice that we all dressed much better than normal because we were going to be on television. One thing I do need to remind the board members is that whenever you speak, you need to turn on your mic so that we can capture not only how good you look, but how wonderful you sound. So appreciate that. We've revised the agenda a little bit. It's one out there, but the first thing that we have on our agenda today is to recognize some people that are very important to the State Board of Education. And the first is David Severe. David, if you could stand up or something or come up here. We certainly appreciate David's work he's got 5 years of experience with us now. For some of us, it seems like it's, probably more like 30 or 40 years, but he has been with us 5 years now, made a tremendous contribution, and we are certainly appreciative of your value to the State Board of Education. We have decided that with that 5 years of experience that Dave has advanced from below basic to basic in terms of driving the van. So it's his van driving
words, Chairman.
expertise is improved just immeasurably. So Dave, we appreciate it. We've got a certificate for you here and something else.
I've already taken possession of the umbrella.
Oh, okay. We've got some other recognitions we need to make. We've got 3 members who have served on this board for the last 9 years, and that will be eligible to rotate off. I think we can remind everybody that with this board, you not only get a 9-year sentence, but you don't get replaced until your replacement is named. So it can be longer than 9 years. But we do have 3 that are completing the last 9-year term. Mr. Barker is not able to be with us today, but certainly recognize he's been a member of this board for the last 9 years. Certainly been very supportive of K-12 education, been involved in a lot of our meetings, and always a strong supporter of trying to get all of our students to have a good education in K-12.
Mr. Barker spoke with me last Wednesday, hoped to be here today, but wasn't sure he'd be able to, so apparently he was not able to attend. He wanted me to extend to each of you his appreciation for the kindness that you've shown, the hard work that you as a member of the board, and he certainly appreciates having the opportunity to have served with you, to have served on this board, and hopes that his efforts have contributed to the success of our children for the future.
Great. Thank you, Gary. The next one is Carolyn. Carolyn has been on the board for the last 9 years, made a tremendous commitment to the work that we're trying to do. She's served as vice chair, done an excellent job with this, and we can always depend on Carolyn to pick up errors that we have in our material. Just as an example, we was in a meeting yesterday, and she picked up that the material said that we were talking about the International Bachelorette program instead of the International Baccalaureate program, and the rest of us just read right on through that, but Carolyn picked up on that. And tremendous commitment to K-12 education, unwavering commitment to the students in this state, and certainly high standards for teachers, for students, school leaders. She's attended a whole number of conferences for us and just made a tremendous contribution. So Carolyn, we certainly would hope that you're going to be back with us, but anyway, this is the completion of 9 years, and we certainly want to honor that. Thank you. And we've got to give. The next one is Dick Ray. Dick is kind of notorious for being a board member here. He's been on this board for 27 years. And I don't know if that's the longest serving board member in the country, but it's certainly got to be close. And I remember when the first board was put together in the current format anyway, when Lamar Alexander put that together, and Dick was part of that, and he's been a big part of that ever since, and just tremendous contribution. He served as chairman of this board for, I think it was 5 years, Dick.
Seemed like an eternity.
Yeah. For maybe some of the rest of us also, but just kidding. Dick, as you know, was kind of the heavily involved, perhaps the leader of the 2020 project that led to the, American Diploma project, that led from that to the improved curriculum, improved assessment process that we've got in place now, and certainly a big part of winning the race to the top competition. So Dick has played a tremendous role in making that happen. He's been the champion of vocational education or career technical education over the years, certainly understands that, and on this board has been the authority on that. It's hard to believe, but my belief is that every week he reads Education Week cover to cover, which is quite a commitment, and I'm not sure that many of the rest of us put that much time into it, but it's certainly very knowledgeable on it. He's attended all kinds of conferences for Southern Regional conferences and other conferences to represent this board. And I think many of you know that for the last 5 years or so, I've been honored to be Dick's chauffeur in terms of getting to state board meetings. I've picked him up in Knoxville and drove to Nashville, and then on a return visit, and about 2.5 hours each way. And, I think I'm going to write a book on some of the stories that I've heard. I've heard about everything from processing olives in Italy to, I think I could run an aluminum processing plant from all the stories I've heard about his experience doing that. And I think I'm going to write a book, and its title is going to be What I Learned from Dick Ray at 70 miles an hour. So it's been a real experience. Gordon Fee is with us today, and Gordon wanted to say a few things about Dick's contribution. Gordon?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Yes, I had the pleasure of being that chauffeur for a while also, and suffer from a syndrome called Dick Says. For those that don't recognize me, I'm Gordon Fee. I'm retired from Lockheed Martin in Oak Ridge, and for the last 16 years, thanks to Mr. Ray, I've been chairman of the Tennessee Business Roundtable Education Committee. And I've had the pleasure of working with a number of you, and the first thing I'd like to say is to the entire board, from the business community, our hats are off to you for the leadership you have shown in helping us to get us to this juncture in education reform, which has long been needed. But they've thrown away, as we all know, the mold when it came to Dick, and my experience goes all the way back to 1982 when we were both younger plant managers in East Tennessee. Dick comes into my life in education with one of these Dick Says. When I get a call one night from your former commissioner, Dave Getz, who was our executive director of the Roundtable, and said, Dick says you would love to be our education chairperson. Only means one meeting, probably on the telephone a year. And here I am 16 years later in that one meeting. The next call I get is from the Commissioner of Education, Jane Walters, who some of you know, who says, Dick says you would like to start a governor's school in manufacturing. Well, this was a little unusual since the plan I was running was highly secret, and the Atomic Energy Commission was not very excited about us bringing students from Afghanistan and Pakistan and England in. But Dick said it was all right. Then the next time I get a call from that same commissioner, and she says, Dick says you'd like to head up the school to work program for me and travel to Nashville. Probably only means 1 or 2 trips a month. That led to 2 years of 3 days a week, and some of that chauffeuring, Mr. Chairman. Dick has been a tremendous leader in this education reform and a partner in it with the Roundtable and other business entities. But my most famous speech is in the school to work era. I couldn't make a speaking gig, and Dick graciously said he would go to Tellico Plains to an education conference. And some of us in business, like Mr. Ray and I, get a little bit bored, is the right word, I guess, at the length of some of the education meetings. This particular one went on and on and on. Dick was supposed to be the last speaker, and it ran about an hour and a half late. And those of you who knew what the color of his neck was about that time, he was supposed to give a 20-minute speech. He's an hour and a half late. He stood up and said, "Oh, what the heck, we've heard it all, let's just go do it," and sat down to a standing ovation. So, Dick, the Business Roundtable wanted to give you something a little bit unique, but in my typical poor planning, I didn't take into consideration that the board has a zero-tolerance policy. The Roundtable, arranged through the Assistant Deputy Superintendent of Schools, now retired from Oak Ridge, happens to be the curator of the National Knife Museum in Kodak, Tennessee. And we have arranged to have a antique knife presented to you that has your slogan on it, "Let's just do it." But unfortunately, they wouldn't let me bring it through the gate out here with your zero tolerance policy. And so we have a beautiful picture of it, and at the public school forum, we'll present it to you. If I could just take 1 minute on behalf of the Roundtable to talk about this juncture in education and some of the things that Dick leaves behind in our mind as yet to be done, things to be done. We know that the eyes of the nation have been on us. The Roundtable has been lucky the last week or so to be a participant in 2 events. We, under the sponsorship of Gates, just conducted boot camp in education for our new inbound legislators. And the Commissioner, Patrick, did an outstanding job, as did your executive director, in helping to educate the new legislators. But on that upside, the first thing we see come out of the pot with the new legislators is, once again, we're going to take on the challenge of having to push back on elected superintendents. We in the business community think that that is a great symbolic thing for other states to use against us when it comes to economic development. We just don't need that on the plate year after year after year in there. Dick has left us a legacy. There's about 3 things we ought to pay attention to. Distance learning. A number of you have heard him talk about the fact that Tennessee, if we're going to survive these economic times, needs to put a lot more emphasis on distant learning and allowing our kids to go to school on the internet. You'd be happy to know that in Oak Ridge, the UT Battelle Partnership, which runs Oak Ridge National Laboratory, just presented $440,000 to the Greater Knoxville Partnership to extend distance learning and take advantage of some of the things going on in Kingsport. 2 other things is leadership. How many times have you told us over and over again we've got to do things to improve the leadership? And finally, teacher professional development. All of these things Dick has instilled in us in the business community, and we will take on the challenge to make sure that we continue your legacy, and we're going to continue to do it. Thanks, Dick, for 27 years, and you're never going to get out of the public school forum as long as I'm there, so don't think you're retiring from there. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Gordon.
Thank you, Gordon. Dick, I also have a letter here from Lamar Alexander that I'd like to read. It says, "Dear Dick, congratulations on your upcoming retirement from the Tennessee State Board of Education. You had a big impact on me as my scoutmaster, and even bigger impact during your decades of service on the board. I've valued your friendship over the years and appreciate your commitment to public service. Very best wishes to you as you take the next step in your life. Sincerely, Lamar Alexander." And then Lamar has pinned at the bottom here, "You are a first-class A1 friend and leader. Thank you for your service, Lamar Alexander." So, thank you. Dick, this is a big moment here, and I really, as we've indicated, I can't think of anyone who has made a greater contribution to public education in the last 27 years than you. We certainly appreciate your service.
Thank you, Bill.
Got a present here for you. Something else. Carry around.
Great. Is there a watch in there?
No.
Yeah, great.
Would yeah, go ahead and open it up.
Yeah, I will do that. Thank you. little trepidation here.
Mr. Ray, we certainly wouldn't want you to leave without getting at least one more High Schools at Works bag.
Yeah, right.
I really appreciate it. I really need it. That was so symbolic of every conference I went to get a bag. Holy Moses. Look at here. Wow. That is absolutely gorgeous. Isn't that beautiful? Wow. Thanks so much. Wow. Did I
Dick,
get
if
to
you
say a
like-
word or two?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I was afraid that maybe not.
Got your mic on?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've always felt that in education, if you're not going to involve yourself down to your toenails, you might as well get out. I feel that about anybody that's in it, in a position to make a difference. Do it or get out. Fortunately, along the way, I've had a lot of people that helped me do it. And I can't think of anyone that has raised the phoenix out of the ashes any more than Ralph Barnett. He took over a then vocational education department, at least got it named properly to the Career and Technical. But I am not the leader of 2020. Ralph Barnett is the sole leader of 2020 because it's one thing to say it, but it's something else to do it. He was the doer, and with my voice, we'll talk, was just the rhetoric. So Ralph, to you and Tom and Will, all of you, good on you, mate. The other thing is, I really believe you got to pay forward. You'll never be able to pay back. That's impossible. But you can pay forward. And I'm paying forward for my parents because neither one of them were educated. I'm talking about signing with an X until I went to the first grade and they learned how to kind of write a little bit. And so I'm paying forward. I have paid forward. I don't know that I'll ever stop paying forward. But to all of you that have put this turtle up on top of that fence post, I appreciate it and look forward to all of the good things you're going to be doing in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Dick. Yes, Patrick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to express my apologies to the board. I've got to duck out here. The governor's called a cabinet meeting at 9:30. But I couldn't leave without saying a word of thank you and I appreciate the service of Mr. Barker. It's been great working with Ms. Perry. She brings that educator perspective. It's been so valuable to the board in my various roles working with the board. She has been always so cooperative and always pushed education in the right way, and I want to express my personal and professional appreciation for that. And lastly, I could not leave without thinking about something Yogi Berra said. It's amazing how much you can observe just by looking. And over the years, I've observed a lot, and one of the people I've observed and one of the people I consider crucial to what limited success I may have had in this arena is sitting to my right here. So, Mr. Ray, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Great.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Okay.
Proud of it, babe.
Patrick, we're glad to have you with us today also as the interim commissioner, and you want to address the agenda items here?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Some of you may know the governor, upon assuming office, asked all agencies in state government to hold rules in abeyance so that the administration could review all rules that are sort of in the process. I've spoken with Dr. Nixon, the chairman, and there are several rules on the agenda today that I know the board is going to put in abeyance and take up at another time, with the exception of the evaluation rule, which is extremely important to the work of the evaluation committee moving forward. So I just want to express my appreciation to the board for doing that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. With that, then we'll move into the agenda. The first is the consent agenda. We've modified the agenda that was submitted. I think the one that you have in front of you now is the agenda that we will use, and also we have approval of the minutes of the October 29th meeting and the January 7th conference call meeting. Is there a motion that we approve the consent agenda? Got a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Got a second. Any questions on the consent agenda? If not, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? It's approved. We'll move to our report items. The first is the joint report on pre-kindergarten through higher education annual report. Art Fuller. Art?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Dr. Nixon, and members of the board. Before you, you have the annual joint report on pre-kindergarten through higher education. You will find this is a streamlined summary of some of the tremendous work that has been going on here at the state, specifically related to First to the Top and the Complete College Tennessee Act. One thing that I will direct you to, if you just look on page 2 of the report, it gives a nice overview of the almost unprecedented collaboration that's occurring between elementary and higher education as it relates to the First to the Top Act. It outlines kind of 6 initiatives there where there really is deep and ongoing collaboration within the Department of Education and the higher THEC staff and institutions of higher education throughout the state. Everything ranging from curriculum standards training, recruiting teachers to teach science and math, to become more fluent in the use of data in the classroom. One later agenda item that your board will be considering are the indicators related to college and career readiness. At the back of this report, we just have the baseline figures, and after your approval of those accountability benchmarks, those will be incorporated into the report that's submitted to the Tennessee General Assembly. And with that, I'll be happy to entertain any questions.
Okay, questions for Art on the annual report? Any questions?
Art, I would like to commend you on the shortness of your report yesterday. It stood out in contrast to the length of the rest of the reports.
I appreciate that, Mr. Ray.
Okay, other questions? Art, I can't help but ask one question. On page 4 of the report, right at the bottom, we've got, and this is under higher education. Rich may be the one that needs to answer this, but we've got a target there of 2025. You know, I thought some of our target dates were out pretty far in the future, but 2025 seemed to be a long, long way out. I don't know why it is that we've got that kind of target date out there, but.
Well, my take on that is that's to be consistent with some of the other national, whether it's the Obama administration's big goal or some of the Gates Foundation or the Lumina Foundation. But you're right, we have closer goals than that.
Good. Glad to hear that.
Thank you, Dr. Rhoda.
Should I come close?
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, this is a report item. We don't need to approve it, so Art, thank you, sir. We'll move to our action items, first reading. The first one is redefining alternative schools. Let's see, no, we passed that one, didn't we? Yeah. Is that still on the agenda that we got in front of everybody? Okay, I thought we'd taken those off. Okay, I'm sorry. So that's the one that we've passed, okay. Okay, the next one is Introduction to the Fine Arts curriculum. Jeanette?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. This is a course that has been requested by several systems. Several are already doing it. We have a need for high school students who don't necessarily have a strong indication of wanting to go a particular art out of the 4 that we offer, and this gives them a fine arts credit that really delves into either 3 or 4 of the arts that are out there. It's designed to do either way. Some systems don't have all 4, so they can do either 3 or 4 components. The standards are taken directly from those other 4 arts courses and put into this. So it's a pretty rigorous course as I look at it, the way it's been designed. But I think it's been successful in a couple of systems that have been doing it as a special course. I think it will serve a need for some of our students at this point. And then some of them may decide to go on in one of those arts later, but it will give them a great introduction. It includes performances, based things as well as just written things.
Okay, any questions for Jeanette on this curriculum?
Are there any ideas if we will be able to have a block scheduled where it'd be only a 90-day course? Because I know that it listed that there would be a full year schedule. Have they considered doing anything where they would only do 2 of the fine art areas and like as a block schedule for students who can't fit in a full year class?
At this point, it's designed, the request to do this was designed for a full year. Well, actually, it probably shouldn't say full year. It should say 1 credit course rather than full year. So it's however they design it, using all, at least 3 of the 4 components. It's a good question. Thank you.
Thank you.
I had just caught that.
Okay, other questions? Thank you, Chip. Any other questions? Is there a motion that we approve on first reading? Got a motion, second? Got a second. Any questions, debate? Okay, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you, Jeanette. Appreciate it. David Severe, high school transition policy.
Thank you, Chair and members. This policy change is to clarify what students need to do at the end of taking a course at a university or college where we award substitute credit. There have been questions about a student who might take a math class or an English class in their senior year, and there may be a state end-of-course test associated or one coming online in the future with that course if it were at a high school. But by your rule, we allow them to take that course and receive college credit for it and substitute that credit for high school credit as well. Well, the question has come about from high schools, do they need to sit for the end-of-course test? And we believe that would not be appropriate since the class at the college or university is a college or university class with a curriculum different, higher than what we generally teach at the high school level. Now, the caveat to that would be if there is a course that requires some federal reporting purposes for adequate yearly progress or something along those lines, those would still be on the table for the student to take. The entire Section 8 there, assessment of learning, we gave you that entire policy, but as you see, it's really that last bullet on the last paragraph regarding college courses that's applicable to this agenda item.
Okay. Questions for David?
Yeah, Dave, I don't know that this information is available, but what percent of the school boards opted for the max rather than transitioning into the 25%?
Help me out with that, Dr. Nixon.
I'm not sure I understand the
Well, you have
the weight of the end of course.
no, not the 25% of the grade goes into the student's report card.
As I understood,
We had a provision whereby we allowed the state, the LEAs, to determine what that percent would be for a period of time until they worked up to, quote, 25%. Our question is simply this: how many of them are looking up and how many of them are there?
in the new high school policy, the section that covers that did not have that option. It simply stated that for the first 2 administrations, first 2 years of the exams, it would count 20%, and then following that second administration would count 25. Now, there were options laid in for a phase to select a percentage for the elementary testing that was approved in the legislature last year.
Mm-hmm.
but we did not include that in high school policy as an option because of the uniform grading policy. We needed everyone to count the same percentages each year in order for the grades to have a level floor.
Yeah, because I guess I misunderstood, because I saw where there were some LEAs that said that we feel it ought to be 25% right off the bat and put that in.
I think they were talking about their decision for the grades 3 through 8. That's the newest thing on the block with last year's legislation.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Well, in this item, what we found, there's considerable confusion, and U.S. history is a good example. Students were enrolled in a college U.S. history course. We gave them U.S. history credit on their high school transcript. Some of the high schools, though, required them, and I mean, as a state, we may have required them to take the U.S. history, and what they were doing is taking that grade, converting it to a score, and averaging it with a college grade, which is totally inappropriate. So this is an attempt to try to clarify. I've checked with the Department of Education, with Mr. Long, and he's very supportive of what we're doing here. That clarifies, makes it clear we should have uniform administration following this.
Okay. Other questions, comments? Okay, is there a motion that we approve the high school transition policy in first reading?
So moved.
Got a motion? Second? Got a second? Any questions or discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, we'll now move to the action items on final reading. First item is teacher leadership standards, teacher leader standards. David?
Thank you, Chair. There's no change from the first reading of these. As you may remember, these were developed by a consortium of several states and not-for-profits and others focused on the idea of moving some teachers into roles that they now currently enjoy, but putting some standards behind that. These are individuals who work as data coaches, interventionists, and some standards behind that. Tennessee does not have a licensure area in this, but that would be a logical outgrowth of these standards. This is also a way that we can recognize those teachers that are doing work with their peers, and it's put some standards up with them, and how especially critical in light of our new push for enhanced professional development.
Okay. Any questions for David? Is there a motion to approve? Got a motion? Second? Got a second? Got a second? Okay. David started to look worried there.
Scared.
Yeah.
Feeling, I belatedly do have a question, and I'm not sure that it kind of echoes whatever is in this particular one. I read it, and there was one word that I kept looking for that I didn't see, and it's the word audit. You train, but do you audit what has been trained such that you know the people, when they go back, are doing what they said they were going to do or what they had learned?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and so the people that generally wind up in these roles are not supervisors of teachers per se. They are peers who have been placed in a role where they need to teach their peer how to do something that they're doing very well. So I think we would feel that the idea of auditing whether or not there's been implementation of a strategy or something over time would still fall back on that school leadership. That still seems to be, at least for now, the role of those that hire and fire teachers, and that would be the school leadership there.
I wouldn't say that I'm totally easy with that, because at least it's been my experience in querying principals as to how much time they spend in the classroom, that is not a strong suit. And so how can the school leadership audit if they're not in the classroom?
So I think a real companion piece to these standards are the school leadership standards that we're familiar with and came about a year prior to these. And Dr. Nixon's more familiar with those than I am, but But correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Nixon, is that not a vision of the enhanced standards that principals take a more active role as instructional leaders in those standards?
That's true, and the new leadership standards shifts the focus primarily to instructional, to the instruction side of the house over the management. But Dick, I think as we work through this, with each employee, each professional in the building being evaluated every year, I think that's the only place we're going to have the capacity to do an audit. Whether or not we may need to take a look at weaving these into the evaluation process for this group of folks, as we still have discussion going on with the new evaluation process.
I guess my problem is it's like a dog being hit with a broom. Every time you see a broom, you kind of get a little bit uneasy. Yeah. And I was hit with a broom when some 9 or 10 years ago, Jane Walter and I decided that we ought to have a professional workshop that lasted several days in several districts in order to bring in one of the best math teachers in the United States, because we felt like our teachers needed to be exposed to someone like this so that when they went back to the classroom, it would aid them in their teaching ability. And we did it with great fanfare. We got the report back from 99% of them, best thing I ever had in my life, wish I'd had it earlier, all of that. So a little over a year later, we decided to kind of take a statistical sample to see how many of them were using, quote, this methodology of teaching. We found almost 90% of them were not using it. And the reason they weren't using it, the principal didn't support me. It was too hard. I got so many things to do. I could not do it in this manner. I needed a refresher course. You name them, and maybe you've been exposed to them. But I just really worry that we spend a tremendous amount of money on handbags and this instruction, and yet when the dust settles, you just don't get your bang for the buck. And having said it, I'm off of it.
Okay. I bet David wants to respond to that.
Not particularly. No, all I would say is that I think this is one step. This is in creating a systemic environment of professional development where the professional development is peer-to-peer, and it's embedded in the school day, rather than what you described, which is what we were all very used to, where someone came in, they taught us what to do, and then we went back to doing what we were doing. And I'm a victim of that myself, and many of us who have taught have done the same thing. Because things get out of hand, life just begins to happen, versus that systemic check-in with my peer who really does something well. Even teachers that struggle do something better than any other teacher in that building. And so this is a way to sort of get our arms around that and begin to build on exactly what you described, the failings of those type of professional development experiences. And what lessons can we learn from that? How can we put that into something that has some meaning and some teeth to it, and then roll it out for the professional development of our teachers?
You ought to run for political office.
Thank you.
Gary?
I think also it's important to understand, while this may have implications for the K-12 side of the house, these are really the marching orders for those post-secondary institutions as they develop advanced degree programs, training teachers to be teacher leaders as to how those programs will be organized and what they're to contain, what they're to teach. That's really the purpose of this particular document.
Okay. Other comments, questions? Okay, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you, David. Jeanette, curriculum standards for 6-12 dance. You're going to have a demonstration of all these standards, part of your presentation?
There are no changes from the first reading on this.
Okay, got a motion, got a second?
Second.
Second, okay. Any discussion, questions? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, David, you're back up with a middle grade STEM teacher license.
Thank you, Chair, members. This is the final reading. There have been no changes since the first reading. I would only point out that we believe this is a really critical first step in helping our middle grades teachers with some more content, getting a content training that's, rather than a generalist, a more specific approach to mathematics and science. Obviously, there's a counterpart to that, which is the humanities side. Brenda Abels is here today, and she and I have already started working on the next steps for that. Everybody can't teach math and science, right? We got to have people to teach the other subjects as well. So there will be a counterpiece to this coming before you relatively soon, we hope. There are not licensure standards associated with this endorsement piece yet. Those are under development. The same people that you have several pieces of information from a conference that was a few months back, and that was through some congressionally directed funding, and sort of falling out from that is the next step in terms of licensure standards. We wanted to get this sort of in the pipeline to begin with, because districts have been, universities have been saying, is this really going to happen? We want to start planning on around a STEM middle grades license. So once this happens today, if this happens today, then they can begin the work towards re-envisioning how they build their middle grades programs.
Okay.
Considering the train has left the station on STEM, it's the newest flavor in the ice cream store. Is there any talk about, in addition to a certificate for graduating from high school, that it's a STEM graduation?
I said the closest thing that we have to that is what you approved as the elective focus area within the high school policy. That certainly is math and science focus is one of the eligible elective focus areas. There's no reason why a district could not create and turn that into a STEM that involved both engineering and technology to really bring the whole STEM concept to the fore, and we would certainly support that. So the short answer is yes, sort of, to your question.
Is the sort of bureaucratic?
No, the sort of is based on a local school district's capacity to deliver those courses.
Okay. Other questions? I think this is extremely important area. I think we all agree that math and science in the middle schools is one of the things that really needs to be improved and can go a long way to accomplishing what we want to accomplish in terms of high school graduates. So extremely important. I think it is important to recognize that, basically what we're approving here today is the intent to have this license out there.
Correct.
And we'll be developing the licensure standards that we have associated with other licenses. Okay, any other questions, comments? Chip?
My other question is, you were talking about the humanities teacher licensure. When you get a humanities, will the generalized standards, will they no longer be able to get just a general license for middle school?
We haven't gone quite that far yet, and thank you for that question. That has come up. There are some real questions from universities we have many universities that license teachers. We have some license 400, some license 4 each year. So it becomes an institutional capacity issue to deliver that. Right now, I'm not sure that we're ready to make that leap off the cliff quite yet, but that would be sort of an obvious byproduct of this, that market forces would get involved, and you would see that these students from these new teachers from these programs have better results than those who are from a more generalist background, and those programs may wish to swap over to that. Of course, this would be an excellent opportunity to run both of those on parallel tracks and see how they actually do.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions? Okay, is there a motion to approve?
So moved, Mr.
A
Chairman.
motion, second? Second. Any other questions or discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Next item is the Tennessee College and Career Readiness Goals and Indicators. Corey?
Thank you, Chairman and members of the board. Just to clarify, the changes that have been made since first reading, when you first saw this, is the addition of a ACT target for all subjects and not just individual subjects, as well as the addition of 4 additional indicators and targets set for transition into post-secondary education. Just as a reminder, these are 15 performance indicators along with targets for 2014-15 and targets for 2019-20 that are meant to clarify the aspirations that you as state leaders and other leaders across the state have for our education system as well as our students. We'll be using the 2014-15 indicators to drive really rigorous performance management for our Race to the Top grant, but it doesn't stop there, and we have much more ambitious indicator targets set for 2019-20. These 15 indicators go between the 3rd grade all the way through post-secondary completion. And one thing that I don't always emphasize enough but should do more is that the targets that are set here are set for all subgroups equally, so they really call on far more dramatic progress for groups of students who are farthest from meeting state standards right now. So more than happy to take questions and any further comments.
You and I had a little discussion on this yesterday. There are 2 targets that really kind of disturb me. One is the math target, and the other is the science target. Kind of one breeds the other.
Sure.
Which one of the measures are you talking about?
I'm talking about math and science.
But
For the ACT.
For the ACT. We all agree that we have a budding cancer in the middle grade math situation. And while I see a lot of stuff that will be going on, the STEM certificate, you name it, we still have a huge number of teachers that either don't want to teach math or are not that good at teaching math. It isn't that they are not trying. I am positive they're giving it everything they got. But if you don't got it, you can't do it. And so I don't see anything in the pipeline of 3 years that's going to get us there. In other words, we will slowly but surely, hopefully, transition there that says you have to have competency in math, known competency, in order to begin to teach it. And certainly a real desire to teach it, because it's not the easiest subject to teach. So that's my concern, because they've already recognized that the miserable science scores that we got were primarily related to lack of mathematical competence. So it's kind of like the alpha and the omega as far as I'm concerned. Having said that, I'm off of it.
Thank you. And if I could just respond briefly, we share your concern equally and are absolutely committed to meeting these targets and finding the set of solutions that will help educators to finally meet them. We take this very, very seriously.
Corey, could we see a defined plan as to how you plan to treat this with chemotherapy or radiation or whatever you do to kind of get it to where it ought to be?
Yes, we've shared our initial plan with Dr. Nixon, and we'll continue to share with you all the plan as it develops and is refined over time. I think, as I've mentioned before, part of the theory of action that we're putting into place is that we don't just have a plan and put it on a shelf and hope it works, but we're continuously refining it over time to get everything right. This is one of the most complex issues that we do face, and it's going to take constant monitoring, constant adjustment to finally get to where we need to go. We have a number of different pathways we think it's going to take to get there, but there's a lot more out there that we don't know yet that we'll need to incorporate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Jim?
Mr. Ray, I think the answer is painful, but actually rather simple. And I think you're an engineer. You have an engineering background, if I'm not mistaken. I think we're going to have to, down in my home county of Decatur County, in a consolidated school that's got, I don't know, 400 or 500 students in it, we're going to have to be willing to pay engineering competitive salaries to get a student that is capable to get the mathematical courses in college and end up where teaching is a logical alternative to other professions that require math intelligence and math skills. I don't, I spent a lot of time thinking about exactly the same thing you're talking about, and I'm here to tell you, I do not come up with one solution in my mind other than we're going to have to put a major premium on these courses, and I'm thinking math and science, on these courses in order to attract the people that have the ability to master fairly complex math, the kind of math we're going to have to teach in the future. Now, somebody can give me another logical solution, I'd really like to hear it, because I can't come up with it. As an example, right now, we built a little, I'm talking my home county, Decatur County in West Tennessee, we built a small extension for UT Martin. They cannot attract, it's college now, they cannot attract neither math nor science instructors for this semester. They were unable to offer, and this is, by the way, a $5.5 million investment. This is a pretty good size investment. They were unable to offer any math courses and only one science course to be taught by a local physician who agreed to come over and teach a course. It's the same issue. We just gonna have to step up and do it. And for $20-something $100 per course for a semester, they can't attract them in a college classroom. And I know we're not going to be able to do it in a high school curriculum. I just don't know when we're going to be willing to step up and do it. That's the issue. But I'll bet money until we do, you're not, particularly in the outerlying rural areas that have problems attracting good, competent, educated people anyway.
Okay. Other comments, or Rich?
I'll make one comment to Jim's thoughts there. If my mom and pop grocery store, I'd have the very best virtual courses in middle grade mathematics, absolutely augmenting what's going on in that classroom by the classroom teacher of record. It would be a dual course, a dual teaching of that course, pardon me. And it's available. We got teachers in this state that I bet you could knock the socks out of anyone teaching these math courses. I can name a couple right now. However, we don't use their talent across particularly the rural areas or even in the urban areas. So it's something you might want to think about. Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you.
Yeah, I think that, without question, we're going to have to use virtual education to deliver a lot of these courses that we're talking about. It's the only way to get there. Rich?
One of the initiatives that we did talk about at the joint meeting yesterday to keep our eyes on, is the U-Teach program,
Right.
which is now what, Corey, at Middle Tennessee, UT Chattanooga, Knoxville, and Memphis.
Absolutely.
And they are already, and we're starting with a small number, but just exponentially growing the number of math majors, Jim. So it'll take time, but there's a model there that we're actively pursuing.
Okay, other comments? I think we've talked a little bit here about the difficulty we've got in getting there. I think it's important for us to recognize the significance of these expectations, standards, targets that we're putting in place. I think really for the first time since I've been part of this board, I think we really defined what we want a high school graduate to look like. And, if you really take these standards here and look at what our expectations are on the ACT college readiness benchmarks, this is really a significant step forward. I think they are where they need to be. They're very, very challenging, but very important. When you combine the ACT college readiness benchmarks with the graduation rate that we've got in here, and then also some of the post-secondary in terms of the percentage of our folks that we want to get associate degrees and bachelor's degrees, this really is a important document in terms of defining where we want to go. Getting there, we've got lots of challenges, as we've mentioned here, but using this document as the expectation or the standard for where we want to be, I think is a tremendous step forward. Any additional questions, discussion? Okay, is there a motion that we approve this on final reading? Got a motion? Got a second? Second. Okay. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion's carried. Corey, thank you for all your work on this. This is, I think, an extremely important, well-done document.
And
Appreciate
thank you for your support and partnership.
Okay, we will now move to the next item on the agenda, which is evaluation and grievance rules. This is one rule that we will take up today. Rich?
Gary can speak to this too if needed. The one addition, well, there are two things here that changed since the first reading of this. First, in item number 2, subparts A through C were added to require that before models are brought to the State Board of Education to be approved, they need to first be piloted. So first they would go to the commissioner for a conditional approval for the pilot stage, and then once they've been piloted, those would come back for review and brought to the State Board for approval. The idea is we want to only have alternate models being approved after having been piloted in Tennessee. And then the second change, this was included in the January call-in meeting, is item number 4 in that first part, which just says, here's the part that applies to the grievance procedure. And that procedure is being worked on separately and will come as an item. But this rule as a whole needs to go forward so that it is effective and incorporating the policy by the July 1 deadline set by the legislature in the statute last January.
Okay. Questions for Rich? Any questions, discussion? Is there a motion that we approve?
I just have one question, Mr. Chairman. It's really to Dr. Nixon. Can you tell us, I know this is the rule, but what will come before us in April?
You will have coming before you in April the policy, which is really the majority of the work. All the detail you'll find in the policy. These are the broad strokes that empower the policy to have the effect of rule. Okay. And they also take off the old evaluation. They replace the old evaluation rules.
Okay. Other
Mr. Ralston, if I could add to that, Ms. Sloan, part of you'll see that the rules are as streamlined as we could keep them. The statute talked about the board approving the policies and guidelines, so they're going to be in that form, but also by them being in that form of policies, it will be simpler to change them as you could see from the meeting yesterday, there are going to be a lot of things, particularly in the first few years, that may want to get changed in that policy. And this way, we don't have to change the rule to make those kinds of changes.
Okay, other questions, comments? Is there a motion that we approve? Got a motion, second?
Second.
Got a second? Okay, any further discussion or questions? Okay, Phyllis, if you could call the roll, please. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the motion is approved. Thank you. Next, we'll move to the charter school appeals. Gary?
We have 3 charter school appeals. We traveled to Memphis Monday of this week and heard 3 appeal hearings, 2 with Memphis City Schools and 1 with Shelby County. The first charter school application was from Global Leadership Academy. They had applied on November 22nd. Memphis City Schools Board of Commissioners denied their initial application, was sent back to Global Leadership Academy. They amended it and resubmitted it. It was again denied on December the 20th. They appealed that decision to State Board. I think this was a fairly weak application. Out of 100 points in its initial rating, it only received 14, and after it was amended, it only received 22 points. Out of 100, Memphis City Schools requires an 85-point score for approval. And based on what we've heard there and the information provided, they just need to do a lot more work before they're ready to go. So my recommendation for Global Leadership Academy is that we uphold the board's action and deny this charter. The second appeal hearing came from the City of Life Academy. It had a similar timeline. It was first denied on the 22nd. An amended application was submitted and denied on December the 20th. They also appealed. Again, this was a fairly weak application. On its initial review, it scored only 8 points out of 100, and after the amended application was scored, it only scored 14 points. And there were some irregularities and some problems in getting the issues addressed from their Academy's leadership, and I think we all understand and agree that they need to continue to work on their application and make it much stronger before they're ready to implement a charter school. Therefore, I recommend that we uphold the Memphis City School Boards of Commissioners' decision to deny this application. The third academy was in Shelby County Schools. It was a new consortium for law and business. I stayed confused most of the morning because the acronym there is NCLB. And so once I kind of figured that out, it made a lot more sense. But this was first denied on November the 18th on the initial application. It was amended and sent back and was denied on second reading on a second application on December 16th. They appealed to the State Board, and we held this hearing Monday. This was a much stronger application. On its initial review, it received almost 55 points. Its amended application was reviewed and received 71 out of 100 points. Shelby County Schools has not indicated, we're not able to ascertain that they have determined a passing score, a score that they require schools to pass in order to be recommended. As we listened to the appeal, the first presenters were the Shelby County Schools, and most of their presentation focused around describing the good job that they are doing, and they are achieving above average in the state of Tennessee, and they have some good interventions and have good programs going. But they did not give us evidence of why the scores were deducted, where the weaknesses were. Upon our review, we found many of the sections that were listed as weak, in our opinion, my opinion, and Rich's opinion as we reviewed this, to be fairly strong sections. We also found that the scoring guide that was used in this was a scoring guide that was at least 3 years old. It contained contained requirements about having a facility that has hence been removed from those requirements. It is not a negative to have not found the building when you're applying for the charter. It's hard to lock down and have a contract to have a building secured until you get the charter and able to put the funds together. So that was taken off a couple of years ago, but yet points were deducted. If those points had been added back in, I think it would be close to 80 points on the second review that they would have earned. And because of, we believe this is a fairly strong application, that it's ready to go, I'm going to recommend to you that we remand this back to the Shelby County Schools with the direction to approve.
Okay, we got a motion.
Second. Second.
And a second that would uphold the decision in Memphis, the two decisions there, Global Leadership Academy and Life Academy, and that we remand the NCLB application to Shelby County with directions to approve. Any questions for Gary or Rich on these items? Okay, if not, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you, Gary. Good job. Appreciate good work on reviewing these appeals. Okay, we'll now move to the teacher licensure actions. Teacher license actions. Rich?
As we talked about yesterday, the first one, number A, Mr. Hoffman, we're removing for the moment because we want to give him notice of a changed recommendation. The others, though, you have the details there about the suspensions and revocations proposed, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions for Rich on the recommendations that we've received from staff? Any questions? Is there a motion that we approve the recommended actions? Got a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Got a second? Okay, any questions? Okay, Phyllis, if you could call the roll, please. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the motion is approved. Rich, thank you, sir. That concludes our agenda. Let me remind you of the meeting dates that we have for the remainder of this year: April 15th, August the 5th, and October the 28th. And as customary, we'll probably have some conference calls that we need to make.
I have one comment to make. Students across the state of Tennessee have asked me to thank all of you for School Board Appreciation Week. To just tell you all, thank you so much for all the service that you do, everyone on the board and all the people behind the scenes. The students really appreciate this, and it's nice to know that we're in a state where we have people who care so much about their students and are so willing to work together, putting politics aside just to focus on the students. So thank you all.
Thank you, Chip. Great. Thank you, Chip. Well said. Thank you. Anything else? Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you.